Everybody ready? The City of Plymouth City Council special meeting for Tuesday, June 13th, 2023 is now called to order. Coronavirus advisory pursuant to Assembly Bill AB 361. The meeting is being held in person and via teleconference. In-person participation by the public is permitted, and remote or electronic public participation is also available by following the directions on the agenda to access Zoom. Members of the public participating electronically via this link and wishing to speak may do so during public comment by using the raised hand feature in the Zoom webinar. When dialing into Zoom at the phone number listed on your phone, use *9 to raise and lower your hand. Use *6 to mute and unmute your phone. You can submit a written public comment prior to the meeting by emailing your comment to the city manager or city clerk at kwit@cityofplymouth.org before 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Emailed public comments will be distributed to City Council and made part of the official minutes. This meeting is being recorded. At this time, I ask everybody to silence all their cell phones and other similar devices. And could we please have a roll call?
Councilmember McLaughlin.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Here.
Councilmember Kleinfelder.
Here on Zoom.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Sim.
Here.
Mayor Ackerlin.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Could everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
Of America. The republic for which it stands.
with liberty and justice for all. Item number 2, approval of the City Council special meeting agenda for tonight, June 13th, 2023.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
May we please have a roll call vote?
Councilmember McLaughlin.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Kleinfelder.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Sim.
Aye.
Mayor Ackerlin.
Aye.
Motion is passed.
Item number 3, public comment. At a special meeting, citizens wishing to address the City Council may do so at the time the matter on the agenda is discussed and public comment is opened. Under provisions of the California Government Code, the City Council is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda unless it can be demonstrated to be of an emergency nature or an urgent need to take immediate action arose after the posting of the agenda. Number 4, regular items. 4.1, review and discuss fiscal year 23-24 draft budget.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. The format I'd like to use is to review the budget and go through what was given to you in your packet and go through fund by fund and go over the changes since you got your packet with decreases in that I have found to cut areas, areas that weren't included, and revenue. I will turn it over to Mary to go over revenues that have been changed since we handed out the packet due to additional numbers that she received from finance. So if we start with the on page 24, we'll go down and I'm sorry, not 24. I had it.
Excuse me, Ms. Roberts. I know this might be a little bit out of order, but it's just us here. I don't see many people from the public on Zoom. do we want to take public comment now
Certainly,
and then go back to
certainly.
the discussion? Everybody okay with that? Okay. All right. I'm going to open this to public comment. I may have a little insider information here. Is there anybody from the public here in City Hall that would like to make a comment?
That would be me. Don Ackerland, a resident of the city of Plymouth. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. A few weeks ago, I submitted a proposal to our city manager, Ms. Roberts, from Flock Safety Incorporated. You should have a copy of that with you. I requested at the time that she add a line item to the city budget under the Zinfandel Ridge Community Facilities District Fund for Public Safety, and that is for 2 license plate reader cameras. Flock Safety Camera System is a self-contained camera system that focuses on the rear license plates and the make model of automobiles and captures those images and stores them in a server. That server is only accessible to law enforcement. Law enforcement uses that captured data in developing video evidence for investigations regarding missing persons, stolen vehicles, and any other crimes that a vehicle may be involved. The cost of these cameras are $2,500 per year per camera, plus an initial cost of $650 per camera for installation. These cameras use solar and cellular services to upload images to the secure server that only law enforcement has access to. The cameras are mounted on top of 14-foot poles. No infrastructure modifications are needed with this system. Images would only be accessible when they're searched. Sheriff Redmond and I spoke about the Flock system about 2 weeks ago, and he would like to see this type of system in Amador County. And he is currently working on funding for a system within the county. According to a woman named Caroline Freyer with Flocks, she is currently working with the city of Jackson and the city of Ione to bring this system to their communities as well. This proposal in front of you has 2 cameras as a pilot project. Placement of the 2 cameras can be determined later. Eventually, cameras could be set up to cover all 4 entrances and exits to the city of Plymouth and specific neighborhoods with single entrances and exits, such as Hawksview, Wheeler's Loop area, and Zinfandel Ridge. There are other manufacturers that provide license plate reader cameras, and Flock was the only one that I have reached out to at this time. If and when the city of Plymouth decides to move forward on this type of technology, city staff can work with the sheriff's department for which system and placement would be best suited for the city. Is there any questions about this type of system that I may or may not be able to answer?
Do we know who's using this person within 100-mile radius?
I can't tell you within a 100-mile radius, but I can tell you the county of Sacramento, city of Elk Grove, Galt, El Dorado County, city of Auburn are some of the ones that I'm familiar with that are currently using the system.
Are they using it mostly in developments like what you pointed out here, or are they used mostly in public areas? Are they used mostly in public areas like city streets like Sacramento, K Street, whatever, or are they used primarily in housing developments?
Combination of all of it, main
Yeah.
roadways, intersections, commercial areas that are prone to burglaries in the evenings. So they can be placed anywhere. Like I said, there's no infrastructure that's needed. There's no wiring that needs to be needed. They're all self-contained, solar, battery operated, and they work cellular. So they submit through the airwaves technology to the server.
Does somebody monitor these, or are they like in a loop?
In some instances, they're monitored by dispatchers within the communication centers of the police departments. The police departments also have the ability to add things, what they call hot list. That is adding license plates for specific missing persons or license plates that are related to wanted persons or stolen vehicles, and they'll automatically get triggered if those plates are recognized as they go past the camera. It will automatically flag those as a vehicle and give the direction of travel of that particular vehicle.
I have a question, Don.
Yeah.
It's going to sound a little strange. Would a system like this also be applicable to our traffic trailers with the speeds.
No, it's a completely different system. What's
Okay.
to do with speed. It doesn't have anything to do with stop signs. All it does is recognize license plates, captures the make,
Okay.
color of a vehicle and the license plate number, which can be used later on to help develop the video evidence needed for law enforcement during investigations or locating stolen cars or missing persons.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, mine's, I guess, even though we're on a budget, more of I guess a tech question, is Flock like the leader in this technology, or are they just the only ones that have gotten back to you?
No, there are others. I learned today that Motorola Solutions also is offering a similar system. I think that might be the system that's preferred by Amador Sheriff's Office because it may integrate into what they already have in their cars. But Flock is something I'm aware of. One of my neighbors is aware of it. And like I said, I've seen the signs around other neighborhoods within Elk Grove and Sacramento County. So that's what I was familiar with.
Yeah, I just want to say that thank you for bringing something like this up. I can absolutely see the applicability. You know, we have with our limited means of egress and ingress into the city, it'd be something easy to really get into place at a minimal cost as opposed to having multiple corridors to access town. I'm very familiar with the use of the system. I wasn't familiar with which brand, but working, you know, for years with the city of Elk Grove and city of Galt and their real-time lab in the city of Elk Grove. It's really just amazing what the system is able to do in terms of being able to help. You know, we used it for arson investigation, among other things, but truly a great resource, and we'd love to see it come to town and do a pilot and see what it looks like. But I agree that, you know, it'd be nice to have, as you've mentioned, compatibility with our sheriff's department. So, but no, thank you for bringing this
You're
forward.
welcome. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any public comments on Zoom for anybody on Zoom?
No raised hands at this time.
Okay. For now, I will close this to public comment and then we'll get back to the working through this draft budget.
Okay. So page 23. So I just want to highlight areas that additional funds were cut. So, sorry, I have to put my glasses on. So on office expenses in general administration, I've cut an additional $2,300. If you go down to community projects, public relations, I have eliminated that new category. And we'll bring that back maybe at mid-year.
So in other words, we can just remove this $1,000.
Correct.
Okay.
And if you go down a little bit more. Don't flip pages when I do, because I made mine bigger. You go to the city clerk's budget. I had created a public records request and I had moved $1,000 in for city attorney time. I deleted that $1,000 and just kept it all in the main city attorney's budget.
Margaret, I have a question.
Yes.
In the city clerk category for municipal code, $2,500, what would be examples of how that would be spent?
That is when we update our code. So when we get an ordinance, they update our municipal code and our website that has our municipal code online.
Okay, thank you.
So depending on how many ordinances we do, drives the cost for that.
Okay, thanks.
So if we go over to the fire department. Based on the actions at the last meeting. And the repairs being approved for the fire station, I reduced that 5,000 back to the normal budget of $1,050 for maintenance. Down to public works, public service, equipment and maintenance. I reduced that to $5,000. If you go down to street storm drains, I reduced that to $1,000. Even though that is still an increase for deferred maintenance, I did decrease it down to the 1,000. And if we go to the local transportation, it's you'll have to turn a couple pages. It says local transportation fund, and it is where the COPS grant is. Yes.
25, please. Page 25. Under building regulations, salaries and wages, $52,000. What is that for? What wages are we talking about in building regulation?
That's our building inspector and part of our code enforcement officer. So
Actually, I'm sorry, on that note, I have the same question about under parks and recreation, salaries and wages.
under Parks and Recreation,
135.
Yeah,
Where's that go?
that is part of Public Works.
oh,
When they
okay,
works in the parks and the,
okay. And I have another question. Community development. Salaries and wages.
that is gonna be mostly code enforcement.
Okay. Thank you.
So if everyone will find the local transportation fund where the COPS expense and dispatch services located. I'm not sure what happened with the budget, but it has 100 on COPS contract and 200 on dispatch service for the current budget. And then it was brought to 100 and 100. We took that to 50 and 50. Did you find it?
No, no.
It
By
is,
what page, Doug?
it is on page 27. It's the third fund down.
That's money we're spending for the sheriff.
It's money for the sheriff. Right. It is, the COPS grant is $100,000 and that's normally split between dispatch and the sheriff. Like I informed you at the last meeting, the sheriff did approach me when I went to a meeting last week on Thursday. And that's the first time they brought up to me the additional expenditure. That's a policy discussion that the council is going to have. I don't expect you to take any action on that contract. That's something the council needs to have a policy discussion about. I believe the current contract extension has 2 more years, but their contract is many years old. But again, that's a separate discussion for a council policy decision. That is not for this budget discussion tonight. I just wanted to let you know that that was a discussion that the sheriff had with me. So with that said, I'm not sure where the 100,000 and the 200,000 came from to go into this year's budget. I don't know. But the 100 and the 100 is being reduced to 50 and 50 because that's what we have in our contract to pay the sheriff's department.
And just a quick point of clarification, just confirming that 100% of what the city of Plymouth pays for law enforcement services is the COPS grant. We do not have any general fund or other local monies going to law enforcement, correct? It's purely the COPS grant?
That is correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then if we go over to the water fund. You'll notice that we have some internal service charges. You'll see towards the bottom of the water operations, you'll see CS expense, FM expense, IT expense, VM expense, and RM expense. Those stand for central services, facility maintenance, IT, information technology, vehicle maintenance, and risk management. Those are typically internal service charges that you'll see in larger agencies where you're transferring from one department to another department. In talking with our finance director, it really doesn't make a lot of sense for us to have that here. We're not large enough, and it really causes a lot more work for us than it's worth. So the finance director and I are working to alleviate those inter-fund transfers. And she's going to be incorporating all of those that are split out between all of the different funds and incorporating them into the proper department budgets where they belong, so that you won't see them the way they look now. You won't see those CS, FM, IT, VM. They'll just be under vehicle maintenance and IT services where they belong.
Well, speaking of the water operations, city attorney, $20,000 under city water. Yep. On page 28, top of the page. I don't understand what all these, they're also very different.
We are cutting that city attorney fee down to 10,000. We're not sure why.
Why would he be under water operation?
It's
Uh,
an allocation.
Pardon me, Valerie?
It's an allocation. Everything that we do with Margaret's time, the attorney's time, contract services time is allocated a certain percent of the total.
Okay.
And you said you're cutting that to 10?
Right. We
Is
find
it-
that he's not,
Is the interest payment of $96,000, is that interest on the pipeline?
yes.
Fine. Assume maintenance contracts is with AWA,
Yes.
$43,000.
Yes, and you'll notice under water and sewer, under contract services, the numbers are high because we've had to utilize AWA more for water and sewer this last year than we've had to, especially at the sewer plant because of the retirement of our sewer plant operator.
What does RCA stand for? See, RCA, what does it stand for?
RC,
RCA.
Where do you see that?
Central Services.
Oh,
What is it?
oh,
I don't know what they put in into Central Services. But that's going away. And then under sewer operations, there's dues and memberships for 45,000 that we have not used since before fiscal year 1920 that we're taking out of the budget.
Would there be some memberships that maybe we should be a part of that we just haven't been? Because I know there's just so much, technical expertise in some of the trade groups, right? Where I don't know if there's a benefit to putting something in and, leaning into some of those opportunities, but certainly $40,000 is a lot for those types of opportunities.
I think it may be worthwhile next year, but this year when we don't have an operator, I don't think it's worthwhile. It may be worthwhile next year, but not this year.
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same question as far as that went, if there was a, sewer water operators of California group or some, I know in our industry, there are many trade groups that we belong to for advice and comments and what are you guys doing kind of deal.
I'll check and find out. And then on the back in the CFD, we did add the 6,300 for the license plate reader into the CFD fund in case the council was interested in moving in that direction.
I got some that caught my eye when you get into sewer operations too. It says ranch house repairs. I haven't been out to that house in years. Is it in that good a shape? I mean, it's 3,000 is nothing. It's on 28.
Thanks.
Okay, so that's just kind of get us by for the next year.
The renters do a lot of the work themselves. And they very seldom call us and ask us to do any repairs. We are in the process of setting up dates for annual inspection on all of our buildings so that we can find out what condition all city facilities are in, so that we can then schedule maintenance so we don't get any further behind in maintenance of our buildings than we already currently are, so that we can have a better understanding of what needs to be done where.
Okay, I can understand. And maybe I shouldn't have been so funny about it and stuff. Last time I looked at that house, probably 18 years ago, because we did contract with the city of Plymouth on that house at one point in time to do the pest control on it. And I was going, it needed more than 3,000 back then. So, but 3,000 is nothing in a house, to be real honest.
I haven't been out to see it, so I can't tell you.
Okay.
when you go, I'd love to go with you. I'm
Okay.
curious about it.
Okay. Mary, would you like to go over revenues?
Sure. We've had a few updates after we had a chance to take a look at current year revenue projections. So mostly in the sales tax, That's just an increase of about 24,000 from your original document. And then there had been the final receipt of COVID funding and grant funding, so we've included that. And then the last one, the sales tax had increased a little bit. So that was an increase from the prior. And then the projection for 23-24 then is an increase as well. So your total revenues in the original document were 1.232 million, and now they're 1.258 million. So just a little bit of an increase after we were able to refine them a little bit. So a little bit of an increase.
Are you on a particular page number?
Let's see, the revenue page is on, let's see.
Oh. Okay, I found it. Thanks.
Okay.
Point two.
So our biggest source of revenue is the TOT, correct?
Yes.
Certainly not for tonight, but just in general, is it possible to break that down to which properties, businesses, whoever's paying the TOT tax, we could see where that's coming from?
We can tell you who's paying it. It's not public record of who's paying how much.
Didn't we have an ad hoc group looking into TOT? Or am I thinking of something else?
No, you're right. The ad hoc group has not gotten to that
Okay,
yet.
all
Yeah,
right.
Valerie and I talked
So-
about that.
No problem. Didn't mean to-
But I think to your point, and I'm not sure we're at that part in the discussion yet, but I know in the past, Councilmember Kleinfelter has suggested that we budget certain things, certain activities, expenditures, whatever, with using that TOT money. So I don't know if we're at that point or if we even want to get into that deep of a conversation at this point.
My only concern, and I've expressed it many times, is that when we are this heavily reliant on TOT for salaries and everything else we do, that's a precarious place to be. Because if we ended up in a recessionary time, people are not going to be traveling. And that money will go away, or potentially have a year off or 2 years off. So I've been concerned about this for about 15 years.
Margaret, I'll show my ignorance. I presume that water and sewer are a direct pass-through. They're not considered a revenue stream, right?
Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna try not to sound ignorant, but sound ignorant at the same time, just because, but I think I want it more just because of public record, because of the confusion of constituents and citizens of the city of Plymouth. How much of, when we pay our homeowners property tax, how much of a percentage does the city of Plymouth get from that?
1%.
Thank you.
I feel like I may have interrupted Mary. I don't know if Mary, you were finished with your part yet about the revenues.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I've completed the just the updates from what you originally had. There were just a few that we had made.
Is there a sub total of general fund expenditures. I know we have our general fund revenue on page 22, then the general fund expenditures, but I didn't just see a subtotal to see where we're at comparing revenue with expenditures. I'm sure that'd be a line that'd be easy to add on the final draft. Well, I would
We
assume.
do have that. We have it. It might not be in your version, but we do have it. So it's definitely going to be in the final.
Excellent. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I understand we're not passing through all the increased water from AWA. Do we know how much we're losing a month due to not being able to pass on all of our costs in water?
I do not know at the current time, but it is a substantial amount.
Is that going to be the difference between balancing our budget and not potentially?
It will be more than that. It will be
It will
above and
cause us-
beyond
It will
balancing
cause
our
us to not
budget.
balance it. Correct.
It will be more than enough to balance our budget.
Oh, it will. We will balance our budget even with the increased costs that we can't pass on.
If we were to pass a Prop 218 and recoup our costs,
Mhm.
we would be able to balance our budget.
But we can't. But we're
Not until we get our rate study back and go through the Prop 218 process. But we have started that process.
I guess can we, how do we recoup that money? The money that we were paying additional money, we're not being able to pass it on to the ratepayer, obviously. So therefore, we're losing money in the water fund
Correct.
every month until.
Every month.
Yeah.
There's no way to recoup that until we go through the process.
Then it would only be recouping going forward at that point. So.
This is a silly question, but on the very bottom of this, donations and general fines. Are those like general fines? Is that specific? I mean, you know, I'm trying.
For asking stupid questions.
Yes.
We have fined people.
Is that a code
They-
enforcement thing?
It is a code
Okay.
enforcement thing. We haven't had anybody pay any fines,
Because I look at enforcement
have-
fees up here and then I think
but we have
fines.
issued fine letters. We haven't had anybody pay them.
Okay.
And it
And
looks like
donations, they
donations
just
are
like-
down.
Donations, just like they like the city, so they're gonna donate, is kind of that deal?
I have worked in cities where citizens do donate to the city for certain things, or just donate to the city for a certain program.
They just seem odd.
I know it is odd, but it does happen.
And just retouching on comments from the city council meeting last week, you mentioned that this budget is basically, I guess, increased costs associated with, inflation and everything else aside, but this is basically a status quo budget, not proposing any new programs. I guess the one exception would be the pilot with the cameras, if approved, for within the Zinfandel Ridge CFD as a pilot for the city. But I believe everything else you mentioned is currently in our approved budget, obviously for whatever our fiscal year 23 amounts would be as compared to 24, correct?
I am recommending a cost of living adjustment for staff. Based on the same format that they've used here for the past 15 years that I could go back. And came out to. Hang on. For. Mary, do you remember what the percentage is off the top of your head? 4 point what?
4.9. It's 4.9.
4.9%.
And forgive my ignorance, what is the methodology that we use? I'm just curious as part of I guess, a workshop discussion piece.
It's an index that they've been using the same one for a very long time.
So you compare 1 year to the prior year and you come up with a change percentage over a 1 year period. And depending on if you go back 2 years, if you didn't give increases, it would be a longer period. But this year, it would just be 1 year period that went back.
Okay, so we're just comparing it to a consumer price, an identified compute.
Yes.
West region.
Correct.
Okay, great, thank you. I was just curious what that was. Thank you.
Margaret, I see that the energy or the PG&E bill to run the sewer plant is, you put it in for 113,000 next year. Might be about time to start looking into solar in lieu of paying them that kind of money to run that plant.
I agree. And I think we could probably find some grants out there for solar.
Yes, that'd be nice. I actually, about a year ago, I contacted a few solar people to come in and give us a little discussion on what could be done out there. And they were very reluctant to come in and talk to us because they figured out that they come in and spend a day and a half going over our whole program, and then they have to go back and bid the whole job a year later against other people. So they didn't have much interest in coming and wasting all that time. So probably the grant idea is probably makes the most sense. But to find somebody to come in and spend all the time to teach us what needs to be done out there.
Next time one of those kids is up in your guys' neighborhood gravel.
They put a,
And I wonder if there's companies out there that specialize in municipalities
there
and,
is.
yeah,
But
okay.
they're really busy.
Yeah. Yeah,
They're reluctant to come to a small town. But
yeah,
I think we need to address that again.
yeah.
It would qualify for a USDA rural development grant/loan. So if you received part of it in loan, then you would budget each year the loan payment. But that is probably going to be in savings from the PG&E bill.
And then hopefully eventually you own the system.
Well, if you did it through USDA, you would own it immediately. If they didn't want to grant the whole thing, it would be under a community facilities project, and they're not doing a lot of 100% grants. It's grants/loans, but it's very low interest. Our pipeline is through USDA rural development.
Margaret, would you want to have some of us go out and do some homework for you on this? Well, of course, Valerie knows how to do the grants, but get somebody to come in and just give us an idea of what we need.
Sure.
There's a couple of companies, I know Siemens and a few others that have branched off where we did it within the city of Merced and then did it with Cosumnes Community Services District, where a private company comes in and bundles and finances basically a complete upgrade of your electrical, converting buildings from fluorescent and incandescent to LED, installing solar, doing all of that. And the price of the monthly payment for a 20-year note, the bond on the 20-year note the payments were less than what we would have paid for the electricity up front, and then ultimately in turn get everything upgraded. I know that many of these are major vendors at the league's annual conference for sure. I'm sure we could connect with some without much work, but that may be another option. Well, grant would make it even better because then it's only a cost match, but
Right. I can also add this to the list that AWA's grant people search for. And they can keep this on their watch list that they send to me quarterly.
And can somebody explain to me, anybody, on page 37, the capital improvement funds and just kind of what that means. I'm trying to, for example, the community benefit fund. What is that all about? And is there a fund balance? Do we have
Let's see.
money going into it, expenditures? And maybe I'm just missing something on another page.
So for capital, we have the expenditures in that larger table. So they haven't been split out onto those pages that you're looking at. So they're on the earlier pages that have all of the funds listed. So those will be broken out in your final version. So we've listed some of the expenditures, and then in your final version, we've got an update of the cash reserves for each fund so that you'll see what's available. As far as what the community benefit, I'm not sure what it's been used for. I don't think that there's anything planned for this coming year that I'm aware of, at least in the initial budget that we have.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know what the community benefit fund is used for, so I can't answer that for you, Marianne.
Any idea, Keith?
We can add some descriptions in your next version, kind of describing what each is if it's not easily identifiable.
Okay, thank you.
I guess, as we're going through it, is that community benefit fund, a capital improvement fund, or is that, a special revenue fund, right? Because we'd be, in this particular case, it would be, we're, improving and building upon fixed assets as a community benefit, as opposed to, you couldn't use it out of a capital fund for, farmer's market or whatever, right? It wouldn't be, we don't have that flexibility where this would be something to buy, a depreciable asset, either a fixed building or vehicle over I don't even know what our dollar figure would be for a city, 25,000 or 50,000, whatever our finance policy would be on that. So just an interesting code in this case. All the others fit right in.
You can include the restrictions on that one in the description.
So I just kind of want to go through and see if any other council members have questions. But we can do this formally. Well, I'll go through one by one. Councilmember McLaughlin, any questions or comments on this? I think I should go through one by one, and then we should just have a general discussion if needed.
Overall, I don't have, this budget in many ways is pretty straightforward. It's very similar to what we adopted, unfortunately, just a couple of months ago for this current fiscal year. The format's much better. I really love the preamble language in the beginning, the more a budget document can stand alone, the more sound it is. So I look forward to, as Mary, what you mentioned about, having the descriptions or a better breakout so that, a resident who picks it up would have an understanding of what those special funds are, what they can be used for. The expenses as a whole, as they are what they are. I know we'll be moving forward and have some conversations this next year when our fee studies come back, especially our water fee, and we're going to have, really need to be engaging very closely with the community and having conversations. And I think we need to focus on really emphasizing the difference between the water rate and our debt service that's built into our water bills, right? And so that there's a clear differentiation of one versus the other, because that's going to be a key piece in being able to message this because that's not widely known. Overall, I don't have any specific questions on the budget at all. Is fairly straightforward, and I thank you for putting it together and putting the special meeting together so we can discuss this in preparation for our hopeful adoption next Thursday.
Can I just add a comment? We have yet to fill the part-time public works direct position. And so in a means to kind of help the gap in the budget right now, we're going to stop recruitment on that position to save those funds for the time being to help bridge the gap. The part-time public works maintenance worker. So we're not going to fill that position temporarily, just to help save that cost savings. And
Councilmember White?
Looks pretty straightforward. I've said it in years past, the cleaner and the more transparent they are for the general constituent. I don't think many of us get in our households, and I don't know, really get it. I've seen budgets years ago that you'd have to be a mad scientist to understand what was going on. I think this is pretty, if you want the information, it's right here for you. And then on the flock safety, I'm going to go ahead and add my 2 cents onto that already. I think if we do a trial thing, I think we might want to go just a tad bit bigger. And maybe a couple neighborhoods. That's just my opinion on it.
Councilmember Kleinfelter?
Hello.
Hello.
First of all, I wanted to thank Margaret and Mary for including a lot of the information we've been asking for. Break it down farther than it ever has been in recent past. There's still a few things that in my pickiness, which I should stop doing, I would have liked to have seen the totals in each section, the subtotals, like you have this section and the total amount of money is listed there. I would like to see a year-to-year comparison, like right next to each other. What was budgeted last year, or what has been even better, what was expended year to date. I noticed the salary differences, and I did not notice it mentioned in the staff report, but in my opinion, we just did a pretty substantial raise, and we made it retroactive to when the budget should have been adopted, especially since the governor's projected shortfall now is $32 billion. Our revenue might not be what we always think it is, and we should be prepared for that. So I also agree with the expenditure for the CFD, and I'd like it to be labeled public safety under that, under the fund, because that's exactly what it is. So, those were my wish list. I didn't see that much. I object to the raises at this time. I would love to address it in a few months after we see where everything is going. But that's just me.
Councilmember Sim? Or, excuse me, Vice Mayor Sim.
I totally agree with Valerie. A year by year would be wonderful. I guess this we're looking at is going to be our gold standard from now on. We start here. I guess it's knowing where we came from. That's not going to be very helpful. What we have here is going to be very helpful. Margaret, you did a terrific job putting all this together. I'm no doubt it'll only get better with time. As these numbers start to purify themselves. There's a lot of work to do in the future and with regards to cutting some of these costs, but thank you so much. You did a terrific job, and I think I'll leave it there. Thank you.
My comments again, like everybody has mentioned, thank you to you, Margaret and Mary, for putting this together and putting in the information at the beginning to help me and hopefully other people understand what a lot of this means. And then also, my hats off to you, Margaret, for bringing this to us in a timely manner. And especially on the heels of just finishing one a few months ago. I don't have any questions or comments. And thank you for all the hard work.
Can I get the rest of the council's opinion on the cost of living adjustment for staff, so I know whether to remove it or leave it in the budget?
Councilmember McLaughlin, you.
Oh, sure.
As you know, those raises were
Based
raises
based
that
on
were
last year's
based
methodology.
on
Yeah.
what would have been given had the budget been passed in June of the previous year.
Yeah, it's been a consistent methodology. We haven't changed a methodology. What I would, I guess, ask for in that, would be from, Margaret, yourself, and then Mary, the level of confidence in our revenue projections, we're not talking about a huge, overall in the scheme of the budget. It's budget dust in terms of what the dollar amount equates to. And I'm certain we can make it up in other areas, but obviously, robbing Peter to pay Paul puts us behind in other spots. But I think, but at the same time, not paying our staff based on a methodology that's been the accepted and practiced methodology for a long time is then, balancing the books on the backs of our people. And so, if there's a strong confidence in the projections, if there's some conservatism in the both the expenditure and revenue numbers, and I'm comfortable and support what's being proposed.
Wow, I'm not gonna sound that eloquent, so we'll just, did you? So we'll just go on this. For years, we talked about how great our staff is here in the city. I know that our staff could probably find these positions in other cities for a lot more money. It is a cost of living raise. We all are feeling it. No one can say that their groceries went down last year. So, of course, I understand though in my own household and for the office that I work at, if the money's not coming in, we can't give raises. I know that's just how it works, but if the money's there, of course, I gotta support it, so yeah, I support it.
Vice Mayor Sim? I'm sorry. Councilmember Kleinfelter.
Oh, well, I'm the one that brought it up, and that's, it's not that I'm opposed to our staff being treated right. It just seems like in the last 2 years, we've been bombarded by salary changes. And if you look at the salaries, they're not meager. We have a large personnel bill, which is most of the budget. And I don't know if we're getting to the point where we will not be able to sustain. We'll have to get rid of an employee to pay the rest what needs to be paid. I don't know what the answer is, but mine was just a comment about, I'm just not sure at this time. I always agree with paying people what they're worth, and our people are worth gold. It's just with the state budget going to be as the shortfall that it is, and probably TOT tax not coming in as robustly as it always have, it just made me a little squirmy.
Vice Mayor Sim.
Everybody so far has made good comments, and I can't take exception to any of them. What's the possibility, Margaret, we have a closed session on this particular item versus an open forum?
You cannot,
Cannot be done open up? Okay.
correct, it
Yeah,
has to be
again,
done
sure,
open session.
Not knowing exactly what everybody makes and how long it's been since everybody's had a raise. Margaret, could you shine a little more light on how long it's been since raises have occurred in this city?
I can tell you that since I've been here, only 3 employees have got merit raises.
Over how far back would that?
So in the 7 months I've been here, only 3 employees got merit raises.
Okay,
Other than that, they only got the COLA raises that they got from last June.
are we talking merit raises at this time? Are we talking COLA raises?
These are cost of living,
Okay, COLA. Yeah. Cost of living.
right?
Yeah.
Most employees are no longer eligible for merit increases.
Mhm.
So the only increases they will get will be the cost of living adjustment.
Is this for discussion tonight, or are we going to vote on this?
Well,
It's happening back, yeah.
I'm looking for direction because it affects the entire budget that I need to bring back to the next
So you
meeting
need to know
that
now,
I'm hoping to get adopted so that it's adopted before June 30th.
So you need to know tonight
I'm looking
for direction.
for direction tonight, so Mary and I can finalize the budget to bring back to you on the 22nd.
I'm for it.
I'm never opposed to it. And that's why I said it made me a little squirmy, which is really a weird way to describe it. But it's getting to the point of looking at these numbers and projected revenues and just getting a bit uncomfortable.
So sometimes the nice thing about going last as far as comments is you all have made such great comments and points. I can just sit here and go, yeah, ditto what they all said. Which is, I'm going to say ditto what they all said. But Valerie, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think what you're advocating for is that we just exercise caution with this, and because we do have a fiduciary responsibility. So we just want to make sure that if we're going to, if when it comes to this, that we make sure that we know what we're looking at as far as, you know, the state budget shortfall and all that sort of thing. I would, as far as council direction, my opinion is I would love to see, Margaret and Mary put these numbers in and see if it's doable. I would also be interested in, if there's a way to find out, well, what are other municipalities doing, especially our neighbors and the smaller ones? Because, you know, we have some neighboring municipalities that are also small, have budget constraints, and are also looking at, they've got to deal with the possible budget shortfall with the state. So I'd like to move forward with exploring this, but then also, and look at that, as far as what are other municipalities leaning towards. And then I think I know the answer to this. I think I have an idea of, but just making sure that our employees are being fairly compensated. Again, comparing, if you take a similar job, we're not going to compare it to what they make in San Francisco, but but, you know, I mean, I think as we all touched on, we know, you know, I'm looking at this budget and things are increasing, chlorine, gasoline. And as Keith mentioned, we all know that all of our expenses are increasing, everything from, you know, our insurance covers less and groceries cost more, gas costs more. So
Let me give you an example of an increase in that we just experienced. Our last tank of gas of chlorine for the wastewater treatment plant was 4,000 something. Our most recent tank of chlorine for the wastewater treatment plant was double that.
wow.
When you get into chemicals and petroleum and different things of that nature, it's crazy right now. Per tank fill up, for a 4-gallon tank of the materials that we use at our office, it has gone from $2 to $15 per tank. I mean, that's insanity. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if anyone's got some chickens. You're running in a gold mine right now with eggs. I mean, milk has gone through the roof. So yeah, it's hard for all of us right now. That's, you know, and that's kind of, I guess, where my focus is. It is a cost of living raise. Cost of living is going up. So that's when it really breaks down to me. But we do have to have the money to provide that cost of living raise.
I think it's already built in. Correct me if I'm wrong, Margaret, but if you look, it's in two separate Excel documents and two separate charts. And if you look at the salary from the year before and the proposed projected salary, it'll say proposed at the top. And I think you built that 4.9 into that.
Yes, the proposed salary chart is built into that. So what I will do, I will work with Mary this week. I will look at the jurisdictions around us and do a cost estimate and check what their staff's being paid, what our staff is being paid. I'll see what they're doing with their COLAs. I'll try to do some kind of comparisons, make sure we're not overestimating our revenues. If need be, come to you with two budgets, one with, one without, so that you can make a decision at the last minute, so that you have an option.
And then when we look at what our employees are being paid, we need to, and comparing them to our neighbors, we need to take into consideration that we're not a PERS agency, right?
Right,
Or CalPERS, PERS.
right.
Okay. Do we give you direction?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And one thing that I would like to see us do And I'm not opposed to, I mean, that's a lot of work for Margaret, and she doesn't need that right now. The cost of living is built into the budget. Let's just leave it there. But what I'd like to see us do is on a quarterly basis, do a sit down like this and a budget review of, okay, this is where we are. And I think that would be helpful for staff as well as the council.
Yeah, I thought I saw something in here that something would be done quarterly.
Oh, yes. I purchased for the city, well, the city purchased purchase requisition and PO software for the whopping amount of $2,000 that will now encumber funds so that line items cannot go over budget.
Right.
So anything that somebody tries to enter into the system that would put it over budget will have to come to my desk first. So that is a huge comfort for me that we can't go tremendously over budget. If one area is going to go over budget, I have to try to find money somewhere else in that
Fund.
to make up that difference, or the expenditure doesn't get made. So there's a little bit of comfort for me there that we're not extending this year. It was a little late in the year this year for me to have that kind of control. And the invoices now are being coded by either Kathleen or I, so that we have a little bit more control that things are being coded to the right place. And a little bit more control over the who's purchasing what and where. And it is a little bit more control over spending.
And then I don't know if this was what Valerie was talking about, but I'm seeing on page 11, it says that the city manager shall provide the city council with a mid-year review of financial activities no later than February 28th of each year. The review will compare annual budget projections with actual results. And then it says the city council will receive monthly fund balance reports, which
Those monthly reports should be coming from your city treasurer. I'm trying to work with her to get those to you on a monthly basis. She's not sure how to complete them, so we're working together to get those to you.
okay, great.
I'm hoping that they start next month.
It'd be a good time to start it with the new budget.
Yeah, that'd be excellent. I'm looking forward to that. I think just a couple of other observations. I echo what Valerie suggested. It'd be great to have a subtotal under every account section, just so there's a quick rundown. And then for the water fund and sewer fund, I see I missed it earlier, but the small labeling that the tables in progress, will that be revenue and expenditures in those tables? Is that what the plan is on those?
Yes.
Excellent. Yep. No, it was an overhead question. So thank you.
So basically, when we adopt the budget at next meeting, that's basically a city's Bible, financial Bible. And with it broken down as low as it's broken down now, those funds can be expended up to the amount that's been authorized by council by passing the budget. So Margaret would come back to the council and say, we need to move money. We ran out of money in that fund, And I'm proposing that we move it from here to here. So, and I think it's fantastic that we'd have the tracking software. We didn't even have people tracking it for a long, long time here. I think it was budget line items were pretty much disregarded. Not by you, Margaret.
Thank you.
So not only have you both worked on putting the together, but it's clear you've worked on creating a system that provides more accountability and better financial management. So thank you. And just to be clear, if the city manager transfers money within a fund, you don't need to come to, city manager doesn't need to come to council for that, correct? But transferring from one fund to another needs to come to the council.
Yes, we'll have to get Frank's guidance on an opinion of, because Margaret's done us a favor by breaking it down so far. Frank's gonna have to make a decision, and it's probably gonna be fine, but there could be a concern that it's broken down so far that you have to abide by that money was for that and move money within the fund and get permission to. So it's, it's done all the time. The budget is a fluid, alive document. It's, we pass it, we think we've done the best we can, and sometimes something comes up and we're gonna fix it.
Any other comments from the council or Mary or Margaret? Okay, I think that we can close this agenda item and move on to 4.2, which is to select a date for the council workshop. And I'm going to go out of turn. Get it right out there that early August, please, or August. No sooner than early August. Do I have to open this part to public comment? Okay, is there any on agenda item? Is there any public comment on item 4.2, selecting a date for council workshop? Anybody here in City Hall that has public comment? State your name.
Don Ackerland, resident of Plymouth. Early August would be good.
Is there anybody on Zoom who would like to comment on this agenda item? I don't see any hands up. Okay, I'm going to close that to public comment. And then, Margaret, do you just want to do your, sure, this is a very lengthy staff report on this one.
I have no staff report. I'm just looking for your guys' available dates.
Okay, I spoke.
We're looking for the weekend, I assume.
No, we're looking for weekdays because the attorney cannot make weekends. So we're looking for afternoon into evening or an evening. Because we don't want to, we do have a council member that still works.
I work.
Yeah, and
Any day I'll make any day the first 3 weeks of August.
and today was the worst day for me to forget to bring my phone. Or my calendar's on my phone.
I would say, yeah, any evening in that second week of August looks really good. That first week of August is gonna be major recoup for me. Just because that last week in July is the county fair, and for some reason that week whoops me pretty good, so that second week. Any one of them, guys. We got the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, and the 11th.
You're king for a day.
The 10th.
Can I send an email because if it's going to be during the week, I do have to check my work schedule. But I think that second, and I literally forgot to bring my phone today. It's got my calendar. So sorry about that. But you're saying 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th?
The 10th is the city council meeting, so.
Okay.
And so I think we can just have a consensus that it's early August and everybody email a date that's best for them in early August. And I'll make it work because I don't work. This is work though.
Any time in those first 3 weeks works for me.
And this workshop's for goal setting, correct?
Correct. There's a service that a lot of the schools that I work with, when we're all trying to schedule things, I think it's called Doodle. Yeah. But I guess if we used it, I can't, we don't need to use it for this, but,
I've done the app before and you can use it on a one-time basis. You don't have to purchase it.
right.
So I can do that if you'd like.
But if we're just trying to find dates,
It's really good to kind of narrow down the time and the dates, even
Yeah.
within that week. So that way everyone you can see clearly where you're all available for.
but just merely picking out a date for something is not going to get us, that's not going to be a problem with the Brown Act. Yeah, okay,
No,
okay.
Yeah.
Or we could just send you email.
Yeah.
then, yeah, that would be my suggestion is then we've narrowed it down to a week and a half and just send Margaret what we can do those within that time frame.
That works, because I still have to coordinate with the consultant as well.
And what hours are you thinking this would be?
Keith, what time are you back in town?
6 o'clock. Even if I got a flat tire, I'm usually back by 6 o'clock. And
So-
6:00.
Okay. Until,
We're done.
okay. Okay.
Get a 12 pack and get a couple bottles. Let's do that. Let's do this. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. 4.3, communication. And I think we all have received a copy of a very nice thank you note. Is there any public comment on item 4.3? Anybody here at City Hall would like to make a comment? Okay, not at this time. There's nobody on Zoom with their hand raised. Okay, item 4.3, and I'm gonna take the liberty of, so I'm sure you have no staff report on this. Well, it says that we received a nice thank you note from the Monarch Montessori to the city for the maintenance of the park grounds, and it's appreciated to Monarch Montessori that they are
was-
acknowledging.
It was beautiful in color.
Oh. But that was thoughtful of them to take the time to write the thank you note. Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting.